Hey guys, how's it going, and welcome to the fourth episode of Start Kicking. So today I have got two games for you. Having had none last week, I thought it's only fair to make up with a couple for this one. And the first of which is called Ninja Pizza Girl. And basically the whole premise of the story is where the world has become too full of congestion to allow fast pizza delivery. So what pizza companies have had to resort to is sending out teenage ninjas to deliver their pizza in under 20 minutes. So the game itself is influenced by Mirror's Edge and Sonic the Hedgehog, and that quite clearly comes through in its playstyle, seeing as it's very kind of jump, roll and sliding based while still having that like huge free running element to it. Personally, I really like the death mechanic in the game. It's not so much that if you fall and take damage you die and you have a health bar, it's that it's more of a confidence meter in the sense that if you get beaten by a rival company's ninja, as in they push you over, you end up being laughed at and pointed at and joked at, and if you don't defeat the enemy within a certain amount of time, your confidence will drain rapidly and the world around you will darken as it happens. So if you don't defeat the enemy, you will end up going sort of into a state on the floor where you're sort of like doubting yourself and doubting your abilities, and what you've got to do is sort of spam the spacebar to get back up and then beat them before they push you over again and start laughing, and then you can get sort of like 4 of them laughing at you at once, and you've got to get up and beat all of them to stop it happening again. And it's just sort of like a fresh take while still also introducing some of the sort of key themes behind picking yourself back up and getting back at sort of like, or stopping the bullies who are bullying you from coming back at you. There are only 2 small criticisms I have with this game. The fact that, first of all, some of the phrases that pop up when you land, say, a jump don't seem particularly relevant to what you're doing. As in, there's one which sort of like, if you land, it says hyper. And to me, that doesn't seem to really fit the theme. It seems sort of out of place and it doesn't seem to really work. Whereas some of the other ones that sort of say clean or smooth, that seems to fit because it's saying like the roll you made is clean, it's smooth, it worked, kind of thing, you did well. But something like hyper seems to not really fit, and I'm not sure if that's just sort of like sayings because this is made in Australia. Maybe that could well be a phrase that is used over there, but at least to me it seems kind of out of place, and there are other words that could slightly fit better to the scenario. The only other thing is that the running animation for the character is quite rigid. They seem to run fairly sort of upright, and although their arms and legs move, they seem to be really sort of bolt upright, and it seems that quite a lot of the time in other games, for example taking Mirror's Edge, you seem to lean forward a bit more and you seem to sort of run, and it looks a lot more like you're picking up speed and you're going faster rather than having to stand up straight up. And I think, like I say, the only thing that would really sort of fix that for me, I think, is just maybe sort of tilting forward. Obviously not tilting the entire model, but having the character lean forward slightly as they pick up speed would possibly help seem more fluid and more realistic almost. But these are literally just my personal opinions. There is a demo out available and it's on their Kickstarter page just linked, so go and play it. It's from Dropbox, so you can just download it off Dropbox, and it's really good. It sort of provides 2 levels for the game, and that's really good to get you sort of into the game, and it gives you a taste of what it could be, obviously at a very basic level, but it's still good to get a chance to play the game before you actually play it, and before you buy it, which is a really good idea, so well done for that. That's really good, and it's made me a lot more interested in the game, having been able to get my hands on it and see what I personally think. So this is the first Kickstarter this company has ever made, but they have successfully made an app before with an overall rating of 4 stars from 128 buyers, which is a pretty good rating, and it seems that they are going to be able, hopefully, to come forward with this. So if they've been able to make an app, they should be able to make a game with the step up and money that they're getting from the Kickstarter. So far they have raised 18,621 Australian dollars in 8 days, and only $17,000 are needed in 22 more days. So they're easily on track to make this and possibly smash some of their stretch goals which are set in place to sort of like increase the length of the game, add new levels, add new sort of like storylines, stuff like that. So hopefully they'll be able to reach those, as well as getting a new soundtrack and all those kinds of things. To get the full game, you need to pay 20 Australian dollars, which is about £11 $1.80, I think I found out, in British pounds sterling. I'm not sure what it is in American dollars. I think it's similar, but it's $20 for the game, or £10 for the game, which really isn't bad, to be honest. It seems like a decent length game, and something you can play again and again. It seems like it has a replayability factor. So on to the second game, which is called After Reset RPG. Now, it's a sci-fi post-apocalyptic role-playing game, and that's their words, not mine. But it's inspired by Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Baldur's Gate, and Planetscape Torment. And so it's a very sort of open, almost not quite free roam. I guess it is sort of open, you can walk around where you want, but the personal story, they say, will always catch up to you and will always sort of keep you kind of hooked on playing it. So I sort of picture a sort of Skyrim essence, where you will always have the thing sort of leading you towards the main storyline, where you can also go off though and do your own thing. Another thing I really like is the fact that it's a non-linear storyline. I mean, the decisions you make will heavily change the game. There are multiple different outcomes you can come to depending on which routes you take, and apparently it's as simple as if you listen to sort of like a voice or an intercom kind of thing. If you go to where it says or go somewhere else, that can influence the end of the game effectively and the other choices you make. And I really, really like that, because I think there are so many games that sort of like hint at possibly giving you a slight non-linear effect, whereas it's almost always the same game. The Walking Dead is one that's fairly similar to what I've just said, in the sense that it gives you the impression that what you're doing makes a difference, when to be honest it doesn't. And that's something one of my friends pointed out to me. I was playing through it thinking, oh yeah, I'm making all these decisions, it's influencing it, and then he said, well, but if you wait sort of a couple of minutes, 5 minutes more, you'll realise that what you did has no effect anyway. So it's based on a world where an alien invasion has set fire to the entire surface of the Earth, and the only people that survived were a small sort of colony almost, who went underground by chance into a bunker where there's sort of like an underground city going on inside the Earth's crust. And I believe it's set about 120 odd years after this invasion has happened, after what they've called the reset, what the people have taken to call the reset. After that, you are going out finally into the outside world, into certain areas that are deemed safe. And it uses incredible realism, I found. This is something that the creator showed me. He said, you might want to have a look at this kind of thing, and it was the fact that he has debunked a lot of myths, such as why there's no nuclear war, there's reasons for no electronics or very few electronics being available, there's very little fuel available, few canned goods and all those kind of things. Instead of sort of canned foods lasting forever like they do in many other games, they have a limited time of use, and why you won't just be able to walk into a house and eat everything you see that's in a can because it's in a can, because these things can still be damaged and still be inedible. And I think that's really, really important, and that's on the updates page, so make sure to have a look at that. Make sure to have a look at the updates for this project, because there are so many awesome things, including a look at the character development, character creation, and the myths, all the myths that have been debunked. I think there's about 12 to 14 of them or something like that I saw, which is a huge amount to look at really, and why it adds such incredible realism to the game. Also, there are some incredible artworks and concept art and things like that you can see on the main page of the Kickstarter. They are fantastic. I was having a look at some of them, and I was in awe at some of the views you could see. And there is a playable atmospheric pre-alpha, so you can go on and you can sort of there's nothing to really do, but you can move around, you can sort of have a look at the environment. The environment looks pretty cool. I mean, while they've said that graphics isn't a big thing to them, it's not sort of their main concern, it is still very, very sort of present there. You can see that they have worked on these graphics to make it look as good as it can be, and although it's a desert landscape, it is a fairly good looking desert landscape. So I think there are 3 small criticisms I have of this, and they are very, very small, and bearing in mind these are things that I have looked at, I have considered, and still thought I want this game no matter, even if these don't necessarily get fixed or what I consider to be fixed. The first one I've got is really, really quick and small, is the fact that some of the rocks and stuff, they'll be quite small just on the ground, and some of the rocks, you just get stopped by them, and little tree trunks, when you think that if it was real you would literally just step on it and walk over it without any issues at all. But like I say, that is absolutely tiny. All you do is just not step on any rocks and you'll be fine. The second one is slightly larger, but still not too bad. It will just take some getting used to, I think, which is the camera controls can be quite difficult to use. Because you move with WASD as normal in these kinds of games, A and D are used to simply rotate the character rather than rotate and move. This, paired with the fact that it's a manual camera control, means that it can be quite difficult to sort of get to look and go to the right point that you want to go to. The camera maneuver is by right clicking and turning it, and so that means that if you sort of rotate your character, your camera won't rotate, and it can be quite awkward to use sometimes when you just want to go in the one direction. You end up sort of looking still in the same direction, but it's kind of all over the place. And like I say, you'll be able to get used to it, but it may take a little bit of time to be able to look at the bits that you want to look at. So I think to me the easiest way to fix it would be to, if you are keeping the sense that A and D only rotate the character, if you had it so that the camera locked where your character was looking at, and then you could choose to unlock it. So say wherever your camera turned to, wherever your character turned to, the camera would follow them round. That would make it a lot easier, and then you could unlock it to rotate and look around yourself, rather than having to do both at once. Either that, or if you wanted to keep the free rotation camera, possibly having it so that A and D rotate and move your character, so that you can definitely move in one direction rather than having to turn both at once. And I know that's a really, really weird and probably kind of bad odd explanation that I've put into it, but if you go and play the pre-alpha that's out at the moment, you can download it. Again, it's from Dropbox. You can see you should be able to see what I mean, in the sense that some of the movement and rotation of camera and turning can be a bit sort of clunky at times. The third and final thing, again this is just really, really small and it should be a fairly easy fix to put in, is the fact that some of the NPC sprites, the non-playable character sprites, seem to be slightly too big in comparison to your character. As in, I found two people just sort of having a discussion with each other that when I walked up to them, I was a decent bit smaller than them, as in it was just like I'd been squished down a little. And while that's not a big deal and it'll be easy to just sort of ignore, it seemed a bit like odd, the fact that they both just seemed to sort of tower over you almost like giants. And that's just a little point that I thought I'd throw in there. And again, these are really just personal opinions, and also the fact that this pre-alpha is very old. This is from 2013, and they have said they have an updated pre-alpha that they are still working on. So these all my comments may be now completely invalid and have been completely fixed, but I just thought I'd give my take on both of these games to you and to the developers. If you play any of the alphas, please just drop a comment below so that the developers will be able to see what people say in a way that if they aren't on Kickstarter or aren't on any of the forums or things like that, they can still leave their comments on the pre-alphas and things like that, the demos. As I said, be sure to look at the updates for this game, for the After Reset RPG, to make sure you don't miss any of the new updates that they've put out, because they are fascinating, they are brilliant, and they give reasons why it makes this game even better if you read them. Okay, so moving on to the money, it is already funded, it's already there, so it's literally just a chance to buy the game for the Kickstarter prize and possibly get on the early backing and things like that. And this is their third project, so the two others, the first one was their first attempt at making this game, and the only reason it didn't go ahead was because they asked for $900,000 rather than the $35,000 I believe they've gone for this time, because they've received funding from other places, and this is all they need now. The second project they made was the prologue graphic novel to the current story, where it just sort of tells for the few hours leading up to the reset. Which is kind of cool. It's a really cool thing to have a separate project to sort of build into the game and build up the hype, I guess, and I think it's a really good idea. So that's it for today, guys. Sorry if this was a bit of a rambly episode, I feel like it was, but nevertheless, hopefully you got the point, and if you didn't, go and try out the demos and have a look for yourself. Make sure you have a look. As always, if you find any projects that you like yourself and I haven't covered them, just send them to me in a message or drop them in my Facebook or Twitter, and I will have a look at them. If I like them, I'll give you a shout out. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.